Alright, you guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about crafting. Now, on the recent roadmap update, CIG kind of showed us that they're currently working on base building and crafting. And these teams have work that go into the early parts of 2025 next year. So I think it's pretty safe to say, based on all the hints that Jared has been dropping on Star Citizen Live and Inside Star Citizen, that CIG is going to be talking more about base building at this year's CitizenCon. Um, they showed off a good amount of base building information at CitizenCon last year, but we didn't really see anything tangible in terms of ships or modules. But they did allude to the fact that certain vehicles will be coming out and modules for the galaxy. Okay. Now, strictly speaking, I do not think that we are going to be getting the Pioneer anytime soon. So how will this happen? Essentially, the player base has been kind of wondering, how will we have base building and this type of crafting stuff if the ships with this specific capability aren't in our hands yet? So today I wanted to look at some of the different ships that have crafting and base building and mining potentials to kind of theorycraft what this gameplay loop can look like. I also kind of want to talk about the feasibility of what CAG might show at this year's CitizenCon. So to kind of kick things off, I want to talk about my predictions for CitizenCon first and foremost. Now, we know that the Ship Showdown is going on, and CAG recently showed off Inside Star Citizen with Gavin Rothery, one of the concept artists for ships for the game. So I think that a sort of ship roundtable, usually at CitizenCon, they have this kind of section where they go over ships that are upcoming, ships that are going to be announced and released. Last year's CitizenCon, we got new ships, and so I wouldn't be surprised if at the end, somewhere during the ship section, they talk about the ships that they are planning to, have tied into this feature, because obviously this will be the most exciting thing. And right now, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like CAG kind of needs some kind of morale booster. They need some type of ship with a real punch that the player base can get behind. Ideally, something that they can sell for a decent amount of money that will get people excited again, that will get that cash flow moving again. And so I think that it's pretty safe to assume that we will get either CAG talking about the Galaxy module, or they might show us the ground vehicle base building device. Now, strictly speaking, I think that this will be more tied to crafting than really base building, because the sneak peek that CIG showed on the social media, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, this kind of looks like a fairly large structure, and I don't think a ground vehicle could realistically build something that size. So the ground vehicle might be more based on, this is the thing that's going to build the furniture. Again, another thing that we got with persistent hangers, is we got chairs and tables and that type of stuff. So I think that that ground vehicle will build a lot of the things that go inside of the base. And more than likely, this Galaxy module will be what, drops these little kind of homestead, cargo container, cabin in a box type deals, which I think will be the first step of base building, kind of that tier 0 implementation. like with salvage and the vulture we have here, it kind of started off as just hull scraping before we got the structural salvage. So I think what we're going to get with base building is we're going to get these kind of modules that we could drop down on our plots that, we can, that might have a bed that we could log out in. It'll have, some type of space so we can, put our armor and gear and stuff like that. But it might not have, the excavation capabilities that will come with full base building or whatnot. So let's talk about these ships real quick. So, okay, to kind of start with the big one, the Orion. Now, the Orion is kind of designed around this kind of large scale mining. It's not a ship that can land on a planet. It's a ship that is designed for like asteroid belts and whatnot. So I think in the grand scheme of things, this ship is primarily going to be, a money maker, something that you're going to use to get materials to sell and less materials to craft. Unless CAG makes some type of, way where, the players can mass manufacture certain items. I think the quantity that something like the Orion is going to be able to mine might be it might be too much mining for crafting. Again, until CAG implements some type of mass manufacturing, realistically, you're gonna probably get too much materials with a ship like this. These materials, you're probably going to be you're probably going to be mining materials to sell. Okay, and so we move straight to the Pioneer. The Pioneer is a ship that the player base is highly anticipating. Okay, now this ship is designed specifically for base building, but the kind of scope that we're seeing with base building is that these are going to be money making locations. You're going to be able to build this for yourself and for other players. This has the ability, I believe there was a sale where when you bought one of these Pioneers, you also got a land claim beacon. So whether or not CAG is going to resell that and do land claims sold separately aside from the Pioneer, or if you just have to be one of those lucky people who already have a Pioneer. I think realistically CIG is gonna want to open it up to more players. Again, I think I've talked about this in a previous video. I don't know if CIG is going to sell land again. Kind of looking at the state of the game and the player base and everything that's going on, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because again, at the end of the day, this is going to be kind of tier 0 implementation. Realistically, when you buy this beacon, you'll be able to keep the beacon, but when the game goes to 1.0 beta or whatever, that land claim spot that you claimed will more than likely disappear. So because it's in the alpha phase, you'll more than likely be able to claim a land plot, but that specific location, the base and the structures that you build on that claim will more than likely get wiped before 1.0 beta to give a fair chance and opportunity to everyone else. But it will give you an opportunity to kind of test that. Like the land claim beacon, that's yours. You'll be able to keep the beacon, but the specific spot that you had in alpha will more than likely get wiped for 1.0 beta. So I think that is something that CAG might sell the beacons again, giving you the ability. Like I think when they sold it, there were different sizes that you could buy. There was like I think again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, like a 4x4 kilometer squared plot. And the thing with Star Citizen is that it is such a large game that literally all of the players could live on Microtech. That's how much real estate there will be. Now what CAG said specifically is that base building will come out with Nix. So I think personally that CAG is trying to get Pyro out this year, ideally. I know now that it's been pushed back to Q4 of this year, realistically it might drop in Q1 of 2025. But I think that Nix is pretty much done, and they're just kind of waiting for base building to come out to drop them together. Because again, basically what CAG said, I can't remember where they said it or when they said it, but they were basically, I believe maybe it was at CitizenCon, but from what I can remember, they said that base building will come out with Nix. And again, a lot of the work is finishing up early next year. That is not an indication that it will come out next year. Again, the progress tracker just kind of shows what teams currently working on what. It doesn't really show what features coming out when. So I would say it just kind of gives us an idea of what the intentions are. So I think that for this first phase, the Pioneer is not going to be part of that. I think that complexity of this ship, CAG might want to have something a little bit smaller scale before they really introduce that. Then we come out to the Reclaimer. Reclaimer is a really interesting one because this currently is a ship that has crafting. You can, make the things that you need. You can make the multi-tools and whatnot. So there is kind of like that first, I would say, not even tier 0 implementation, but it is kind of how the system could work, kind of like a machine that 3D prints the items, and is kind of like a list. Now, a lot of people have talked about blueprints. I think that that's something that a lot of players want to have to kind of expand the crafting gameplay loop a little bit. So ideally, the Reclaimer isn't really designed to be like a dedicated crafting ship. This was just kind of like a functionality that the developers added in, surprisingly enough, because people were forgetting to bring their multi-tools and they couldn't use the Vulture or Reclaimer to salvage, because you need to use the multi-tools to move the boxes in the cargo area. So they kind of added it as a quality of life thing, but it turned out to be the first iteration of crafting. I think that realistically, a crafting ship, a dedicated one, will have a type of module in it where maybe you could put in these kind of, how they have the data key cards that you place into different locations to hack and whatnot in the game right now. I think maybe blueprints will be on these types of chips, and you'll be able to put in different blueprints into the machine. So kind of the next iteration of crafting, I feel like CIG will make it so there might be different blueprints to be able to make the items that you want to craft. So you don't just need construction materials or RMC, but there might be more complex materials that you need to make items. And then you need, again, not only the more complex items, but you also need the blueprint, and you put those things together, and then you could 3D print whatever you want. And again, I don't know if that is going to be a system where it really enables mass manufacturing. Like, and what do I mean by that? I mean, like, if you could, let's say, put a certain quantity of a material. Okay, so let's go back from the beginning. So let's say there's this machine that you can put the chip in for your blueprint, and then you can put the materials in to make that item. Depending on how much materials you put in this machine determines how many of this item come out. So realistically, what comes out of this machine is not like a multi-tool. Right now, when you craft an item, it has like a little door in the dispenser that releases the item, the multi-tool or the capsule container, whatever. But if you wanted mass manufacturing, ideally this machine would spit out a storage box with like 15 multi-tools inside of it. So when you open up this storage box, you can manipulate using your inventory, and then you can take those individual multi-tools out. So let's say you put in, 10 SCU of RMC and whatever materials you need to make a multi-tool moving forward. And you say, okay, the machine will tell you with the blueprint that this will make, 10 multi-tools. And you hit generate or create, and it will spit out a box with 10 multi-tools inside of it. Okay, so you might need construction materials to make the box and the RMC to make the multi-tools, or whatever the recipe or blueprint is to make that item. So I think that level of complexity might not realistically come to the Reclaimer because it is a salvaging ship. Again, I feel like crafting is a part of salvage. Again, turning something into other things. I think that that would be essentially a pretty interesting gameplay loop to kind of extend their dispensary's functionality, but I don't think CIG is necessarily going to do that. I don't think that CIG is going to take out the current dispensaries and put in these full crafting machines into the Reclaimer. Okay, then we get to the Arrastra. The Arrastra is a mining ship. It has the ability to mine and refine directly on board. It's kind of why the Odyssey is not on this list. The Odyssey does not have the ability to store what the rocks that it breaks up. It can just mine Quantanium and then refine that into fuel on board. So typically a mining ship will have saddlebags or box containers that when it mines, it creates these boxes or puts the material in the saddlebags. With the Arrastra, I believe you have the ability to kind of dispense out unrefined materials or just put it straight into the refinery. Again, that gameplay loop takes whatever you've mined and turns it into a craftable material. So the Arrastra, in my opinion, will be a step in the crafting gameplay loop that I know a lot of people are going to want to go for because it's kind of that like 3 to 5 player ship. It has a garage inside, it has a lot of cargo, it can refine, it can mine, it has defensive capabilities. This is kind of the pinnacle ship that you're gonna want for the resource gathering side of crafting, in my opinion. And so then we have the Ironclad here. Now the Ironclad's the Ironclad Assault rather is on this list because CIG has said that the Assault will have the ability to craft components and certain things in the back of it to repair the vehicles that it carries. So this more than likely will have that sort of crafting machine that we talked about, that will allow you to materials in and print out a part for your ship or vehicle. Now, I don't know the extent of that. I don't know if we will be able to craft guns and different things, but in this situation, this crafting machine might be specific. And I talked about this in another video, the existence of crafting machines. So in the case of the Reclaimer, you might have a specific machine that is what it is right now. You have the ability to craft the multi-tool and its accessories, and then it dispenses whatever you salvage. That would be like, that type of crafting machine would be like, maybe it's a type 1 crafting machine. And then you have a type 2 crafting machine, which is specifically designed to craft just one type of item. And in this case, I think the Ironclad Assault might be a good example. A crafting machine that is only able to craft components. So you would have a crafting machine that makes components, a crafting machine that makes FPS weapons, a crafting machine that makes armor, a crafting machine that makes furniture. So you have the blueprints for the specific item, you have the crafting machine for the specific type of item, and then you have the tier of crafting machine. So the tier 1 crafting machine might be just a dispensary like what is in the reclaimer. The tier 2 might be like a specific crafting machine, a machine that can only craft one type of item. And then that top tier 3 crafting machine is a machine that can craft anything. It can make armor, it can make components, it can make, weapons, anything you want to make, this crafting machine can make. And that machine might be in a dedicated crafting ship. So it might be in a ship like the Galaxy. So the Galaxy, CIG has said, will get a base building module. And realistically, what CIG has said is that dedicated vehicles will be better at doing what they're supposed to do than a ship that has modules. So the Galaxy might have just that tier 2 dedicated base building crafting kind of module. So specifically, it can only make bases and maybe furniture. Maybe it has 2 types of dispensaries in it. But then that dedicated crafting ship is going to have that tier 3 crafting machine and be able to make anything. So again, CIG said that these dedicated ships will be better at doing their specific task than a ship that has modules. But the Galaxy is definitely going to be in that equation. So again, at CitizenCon, when CIG showed off what base building is going to look like, they had the Galaxy, and of course they had this ground vehicle and the Pioneer. So they had this kind of like this handheld device, this thing that the player can push around. This might be, again, kind of like, there might be like an FPS kind of crafting or repair gun. Again, that's something you do the multi-tool right now. There's like that dedicated repair and salvaging tool, the larger thing to the multi-tool. But we might have, a device that kind of processes smaller things. And then, of course, they showed us the ground vehicle. You had the Galaxy and the Pioneer. So I don't know what the Galaxy's module is going to be exactly, because the Galaxy's modular space isn't huge. So realistically speaking, it's not going to be making the largest HAB modules that's out there. As you can see, the Galaxy is not a huge ship. It's kind of comparable in size, again, a little bit smaller than the Carrack. So I think that, again, you're probably going to be making these smaller homestead modules. You have a room, bed to sleep in, that type of stuff, maybe a little armory, creature comforts, that type of thing. Because if you look at the size, again, if you look at the size module and the size of these this kind of homestead bases, house in a box that CIG showed off on their Twitter, these are large structures, and for the Galaxy to be able to 3D print that whole thing, I think it might be kind of difficult. Now, there is a potential, because another thing that CIG showed at CitizenCon was these kind of construction drones. And again, this kind of means that CIG will have to develop all of this stuff to get this working. But we're just talking about what CIG showed and kind of tier crafting what we could get. But they showed off these construction drones. So realistically, this base building module in the Galaxy might just be like a material, kind of a material hopper where you feed the material in, and that gets put in the drone. and then the drone goes out and builds. So the drone will come back to the home to get more material filled in it, and then it'll go out and it'll build whatever it has to, and then it'll come back, get more material, and then it'll build whatever it has to. And you'll more likely have drone operator seats here that operate the drones that are building these structures. So this module might have drone operator seats, a hopper where you put the RMC or whatever material into, and then it will have the drone base stations where the drones can return to pick up new material and then go out and craft. So that's what that module might look like. Okay, so I think that realistically, I don't know exactly what the Galaxy will be able to build, but I think that if you're a Galaxy owner, this update is going to be really exciting for crafting and base building. So then we go into the mole. The mole has the ability to mine larger rocks. But again, it's limited. It will be in that gameplay loop for sure, because you're going to need to get some of these resources. But CIG is going to need to rebalance a lot of stuff. Again, I've said many times, this game needs an economy from the ground up. What CIG has kind of been doing is they've been pricing and doing things according to the gameplay loops in a kind of like a bubble, in kind of like a vacuum. They haven't been approaching the prices of these items and commodities from a holistic view. And that is potentially problematic, because it means that they're going to have to go back to the drawing board when crafting comes out to be able to set all of the prices of everything according to, what the players could craft and sell. Because right now, if you are looking at, I guess the next thing we can move on to is the vulture, and the expanse is there. The expanse can refine, just takes in the salad bags, refines it, and then it puts it in new salad bags. But basically, if you look at the vulture, the amount of RMC or construction materials that you need to make a multi-tool, it's not balanced, right? So you need way more RMC and construction materials than it's worth to make a multi-tool or a repair canister or an attachment. So in that sense, there's no economy around that, because it's not like I can just go out and mine for hours and make a bunch of multi-tools. CIG has specifically designed it to where the players can't do that. I don't know why. I think that it would be more interesting if CIG made us kind of need less RMC to make multi-tools. That way the players can, because it's not like the players are going to go out and sell multi-tools to other players. A multi-tool is already so cheap that there's kind of no reason to buy a multi-tool from another player. But realistically, this is a good example of, the economy not being in a place where players can craft and sell things to other players in the way that we expect to. So CIG is absolutely going to have to go back in and finally just put their heads down and set all of the prices of everything and make an economy. What they expect the players to, how much time they expect players to spend mining and crafting to be able to make a profit on the things that they sell, the things that they craft. And like I said in other videos, I think these items should be unique items. That way, it's a lot easier on CIG to balance. It's a lot easier on the player base to set the prices of these things, because they're not competing with shops. And it makes these items more inherently valuable, because you have to go to a player to buy them. You can't buy them from shops. So that's what I would personally like to see. I would like to see unique items as craftable items. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. Then, of course, we have the Prospector, the Rock DS, and the Rock, the ground vehicles. These mine gems. I don't know what you'd use gems for, but the CIG can always tie them in. And the Prospector, again, these will just kind of be like your entry level ships into the profession. And then down here I have 3 honorable mentions. I have the Vulcan, This is the repair, refuel, and rearm ship. Obviously, you have those drones that are out there to repair. So you might have to put materials into this ship to be able to do that. So that's kind of a sort of crafting. Again, the Crucible is going to have kind of the same functionality that the Ironclad Assault has to kind of repair vehicles. So that's going to have more than likely that type of Type 2 crafting machine. And the Carrack as well. CIG can always add a crafting module to the Carrack, and it does have that sort of repair room where you might be able to make FPS items. You might be able to make fuses and whatnot. So I think that type of gameplay is very interesting. So the Carrack might have a little bit of that crafting gameplay loop as well. So that's gonna be it for me here in today's video. There was a lot to cover in this video. I really want to hear what you guys think. What do you think that CIG is going to show off this year at CitizenCon about crafting and base building? I think there's still a lot of stuff to figure out here. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of stuff for CIG to announce. We still have a lot of time. Well, not that much anymore. Kind of like a month and a half at this point before CitizenCon happens. And I think there's going to be a lot to go over. So I'm excited to see what CIG comes up with. Again, there's some things that I would like to see. I would like to see unique items. I would like to see blueprints. I would like to see different tiers of crafting machines. And I definitely want to see that economy rebalance with a more holistic approach. So thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. I want to hear what you guys think about all this stuff in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys, and I want to thank you so much for all the support on the videos. It really means a lot to me. It really helps me out a lot. So like I say at the end of all of these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more. I will see you in the next one. Salud.